All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Marlins series, as well as all the latest news and rumors in New York Mets land. But before we get into that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that are recorded live after every single series of games during the regular season. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you watching on playback, or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future live with us, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we do go live. For those of you in the live chat right now, we love your comments, your questions, your concerns, all that great stuff. If you feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored, you're just going to be starred throughout the show. We'll try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok for Frank's instant post-game reactions after every single regular season game, titled The Mets Frankly Postgame. And for our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the new episode, the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 165 of our show. And Frank, it only just seems poetic at this point. We sweep this Phillies team that they have done very well for years and years. Citi Field becomes a house of horrors for them. They beat them into playoffs and everything. The vibes seem good. They gain all of this ground. And then it all just completely comes crashing down against a Marlins team of toddlers and car salesmen. I mean, just not good players, not a good Marlins team. They're no slouch, but not a good Marlins team whatsoever. How many times have we seen this? The Mets just face the Marlins, and they, for some reason, give us the biggest fits than any back and forth relationship could possibly do. For some reason, every single time, this team can't beat the Marlins when it matters. I don't understand why, but it just seems like a franchise cornerstone to our history at this point. I just don't get it. And again, just so unnecessary. And like people are saying in the chat from Molin Labe here, embarrassing, completely embarrassing. For what reason? Unnecessary, makes absolutely no sense. Should have won this series. Instead, lose 3 out of 4.
And they lost them in pretty convincing fashion too. It's not like, they just barely got beat. I mean, some of these games, like they were getting crushed. I mean, it really was really frustrating to watch. They made a great comeback yesterday to still come up short. And a lot of it is lack of focus. I think that's the big thing here is that you're just seeing, like you said, there's no excuse as to why the team that the Marlins are trotting out there versus the players that you have while they were hot. I mean, let's not forget, finally, everyone was hot. They were great runners to score position in the month of August. The offense is like the best. I mean, they had all these things going for them, yet they still lose a series to the Marlins. And to me, it all started in game one. I mean, when you saw the amount of errors and mental mistakes on routine plays, it's lack of focus, it's lack of effort. And that's where the playing down to the competition really comes into play because like, we just swept the first place team. We have all this talent. We paid all this money. We got this. So they go in and they take the Marlins lightly, which is what they've done forever. And the Marlins having nothing to play for, having no pressure, being aggressive, dropping down bunts, I mean, doing whatever it takes. That is a style that the Mets struggle with because the Mets are not being that aggressive. They're not doing a bunch of different things. They're just going to swing for the fences. If it works great, it doesn't. And like the amount of different players, and again, the veterans who make these mistakes in the field, it's inexcusable. Whether it's Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo, Clay Holmes. I mean, you're just seeing all these guys be all over the place on the field. And it really was just like one of the worst games you could watch. And then on the pitching side, the walking of these not great hitters, especially the bottom half of the lineup, like you're asking for a disaster. Like, you are setting it up. You are putting it right out there for them to take advantage, no matter how bad the Marlins might be on paper. If you put any major league team in these kind of situations, I mean, you're making it too easy for them because they're putting them in constant hitter counts. So it was just crazy to me that these guys cannot do the simple things, whether that's fielding the ball or throwing quality strikes. Like, these should not be huge asks out of a major league team that has World Series aspirations. But in some instances for this Mets team, that can be problematic. Even at home, they still are running into these issues. So it's like, one day was the defense, the first game they lost. The next game they lost, it was the pitching. And then today, it was the hitting. So it's like, when we talk about a team that, are they playoff worthy? Can they go deep into the playoffs? When you find this many different ways to lose, it's really hard to just fully buy in as like, okay, this is a team that can make a late playoff run, because when you're a really good team, you have to have very few flaws. I mean, and you have to pay attention to detail, do little things. Mets don't do any of that. It's like they have so many different holes that could be exploited in certain matchups. And here it really happened. I mean, the Marlins, they're aggressive. They put bat on ball. And we've seen this now. A team like the Brewers, these teams that just make a lot of contact, with how the Mets not only are constructed defensively, but the effort they put into fielding, it could be a nightmare. And that is exactly what happened in this series. I mean, we've seen it when they played Tampa early in the year in June. That's when I know Ricardo said, like, that's been the turning point in the season. But we've seen this now with a few teams where, like, wow, the Mets really struggling against them. Yeah, you put the ball in play, these guys out of position, not putting full focus, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah, it pretty much just shows exactly, I don't know if it's just history repeating itself, but this is just basically the brand of the Marlins. It's always been this scrappy, constant contact, toolsy, nothing to play for because they never have anything to play for type of mentality. And it always just seems to spill over against the Mets because the Mets continue to just lose focus against these teams that are not good. These games count the exact same as the Phillies games that you just played, and you dominated that entire series. The wins are the wins. You got to stack these up. And for some reason, they just continue to lose focus like this. And it was very, very obvious that they were taking this Marlins team lightly, especially like you just said in that first game. All these defensive miscues, they're just mailing it in. And you're just seeing, the inconsistency of, who actually is here to play and who isn't. Like, it seemed like some guys showed up for some of these games and some didn't. I mean, and the soul-crushing part about this is the only win in this series was a big win, a huge win, a massive win. They scored 19 runs in that game, beat up Yuri Perez, one of the most talented young arms in this game. And they just continue to be consistently inconsistent. This is all they have been all year long. There was a little bit of a piece in the back of my head after that whole Phillies series where they completely dominated that I'm like, okay, well, I know what the Marlins do to us all the damn time. Whether they end up beating them, it still will be something that you will have to sweat through. And now the Marlins win their first series at Citi Field in a long time, and it ends up being 3 out of 4. And all of that work to sweep the Phillies goes down the drain. 6.5 games behind them. The Phillies win tonight. It becomes 7. And you're back to where you started a week ago.
And they've been very lucky that Cincinnati lost a ton of games in a row. The Reds did win today. But, I mean, had the Reds actually been playing decent, the Mets could be, once again, in the trouble of the wild cards. Like, can you even hang on to that? They've been lucky that Cincinnati went on their worst streak of their season this past week.
Because Cincinnati's not that good of a team.
Cincinnati's not that good, but, I mean, when the Mets are only 11 games above 500, they're not that great either.
They're lucky. They're lucky that Cincinnati is the only team in the depth in the National League isn't deep enough because, again, Cincinnati's like, what, 1 game over 500? They're 500 as of right now. They're not that good of a team. They are a flawed team. They're probably more flawed than this Mets team. They obviously have a little bit more young talent than us, but I think, again, by default, it looks like the Mets are going to make the playoffs. You're not going to feel, I still just don't feel confident in with this team, because yes, they went on and they beat this Phillies team that's ahead of them in the division. That seems like the only team that they can have the upper hand on recently. Looks like that Phillies team still is going to end up winning the division. And then by default, the Mets will end up, I don't know, at this rate, who knows, face planting into the playoffs. They got Detroit next up, who is a really good team. And to be honest, by this formula, they'll probably end up beating the living crap out of them.
They probably will. I mean, because
they just play down to every competition, which maybe that seems like a blessing in disguise when you go into the postseason where all you're facing is good teams and you play up to them. But we can't just live by that narrative. You can't play like this.
It's very strange.
You can't play like this against a Marlins team that you are 100% capable of beating. It seemed like every single pitch that was thrown by the Mets pitching staff went into play. It seemed like every pitch was put in play or they made contact with it. They couldn't put anybody away. And we're not talking about an elite Marlins lineup. This is a good, situationally good lineup. They're athletic or whatever.
Kyle Stowers.
Yeah, Kyle Stowers wasn't even in the lineup the entire series for 4 games. Who is their best hitter? And somehow you still couldn't find a way. Still couldn't find a way to put these hitters away. 7 runs in the first game, 9 runs in the second, even though 4 of them were given up by Luis Torrens, 11, and then 5. Listen, I know that the pitching has not been fantastic, and the only positive piece of it as of note is Jonah Tong, which we will get into his major league debut. But again, this is not high comp here. And it continues to talk about this entire philosophy with the Mets is the worst teams to play in the final stretch are the ones with nothing to play for. Because if you lose focus, what do they have to focus on? Nothing. Their head's empty. They can do whatever the hell they want. The pressure's on you. And it seems like they just completely buckled under it, losing 3 out of 4. And this conversation probably won't even be relevant after the next series because I'm sure the Mets will take 2 out of 3 from Detroit and just be like, oh, well, we're a legitimate team again. It's like, you could have been a lot better. How does that make any sense? How does that make any sense that they do better against the contending teams and then for some reason against teams that they should be beating no matter what, disappear? Just completely disappear, half-ass it, lose focus. I don't know what the message that's being sent to this clubhouse of, well, this team's not that good. You'll be fine. You'll find a way to win. These are still professional baseball players, no matter how talented they are or not. This is unnecessary, completely unnecessary. Makes no sense. And it just shows you exactly what this team is. They're a lot worse than they should be. Because we know that the expectation is high. We know they're capable of more, and yet they still don't execute it. Also following a series where they executed so well. A dominant series against a Phillies team that's ahead of you in the division. And then there's the Marlins as to where, listen, I don't want to revert back to that year 2007, but has anything changed? Guess who the last series is this season? You guys want to guess? So if they keep playing like this and maybe the Reds start creeping up on them a little bit, because it could be possible they go head to head with them this week. If they start creeping up against them, could that be that the last series could determine something? Could be. Who knows? And guess who you're playing the last series? The exact team that just took 3 out of 4 from you. Does history continue to repeat themselves? I don't know. Doesn't matter what changes that they make, right? Unbelievable. Unacceptable. Unbelievable. And I'm not just going to sit here and say, oh, well, that's just the Mets versus the Marlins. Not okay. Not okay whatsoever. Should not be accepted whatsoever. I don't want to hear any narratives about Mets versus Marlins. They did this. This was their own fault. This was their own fault. Their own wrongdoing.
I mean, like you said, we're not surprised at all. We've seen it happen far too often. And it's just like, it just shows you that it's like, well, if you take care of business in this series, then maybe that last series of the season isn't as important. But because you just don't focus and you do silly things while playing these lower teams, you find yourself in these situations, and then other teams have tiebreakers over you and things like that, and you could end up on the outside looking in. And it's like, do you want to be in a situation like last year where you have to literally fight to the very, very end just to get in, and then just go right into the wild card round, just like fresh off playing like that, these intense games? It's not a fun way to go. I mean, it is draining. So we'll see. I mean, I'm we're going to talk about the Tiger series, but that Red series, it's obviously huge. And because it's a 3-game set, like, somebody's gaining ground on somebody. Like, that is going to happen no matter what. Mathematically, it has to happen. So that's going to give us a little bit better of an indicator of where we are going to be as this final month of the season rolls around, because tomorrow it is September 1st. Like, it is the last month of the regular season. So it is their last chance to show what they are made of, what they're capable of. I mean, we see glimpses, we see flashes of good play, but then we see stretches of really, really bad play, like I said earlier, in a lot of different areas. So it's stressful, it's confusing, and it's just like you don't really know, like, when is the good game going to happen? When is the bad game going to happen? Like, that's kind of what it boils down to. It's like, you just don't know which version of the Mets you're going to get, because you could get either one at any time.
Yeah, you can get a dominant form that completely blows out a team, and no matter how mediocre the pitching is, they could be completely destroying you, like a 19-9. Or you could see just a complete snowball inning where they completely blow it and they completely just fall on their faces, and they just continue to be self-inflicted types of events where they throw things, they throw the ball away, they kick it around. This isn't good baseball. And that's the type of thing that is going to catch up to you if you do it at the wrong time. Because it's not like it's completely guaranteed that they won't play bad baseball against the Detroit Tigers, just because we've seen them do better against teams above 500 or against teams that are in the playoff race. The Mets' record this year against teams above 500 is 28-27. So again, it's not completely guaranteed. But I'm pretty sure it's probably even worse. It's probably even worse against, like sub 500 teams or non-playoff teams. It's just bad. Really bad. And it's not even just something where we can say, well, the rotation is struggling. Again, the defense behind this rotation in this series was horrific. Horrific. They didn't really give them much of a chance either. That's a whole different story. We'll get into everything, obviously. But let's get into some people in the chat, obviously. Leib is saying here that the division is long gone now. It's very possible that it is. It is very possible. I'd say that if you're, by the time that 4-game series comes around over this next week, if you're like 5 games behind them, it's pretty. Unless you're 5 games behind them, it's pretty much done. So we'll see. And even though the Phillies have been inconsistent as well too, they have the upper hand as of right now. Pentrese saying, well, that was a complete shit show. Crazy how inconsistent this team has been all season. We've talked about it all year. Now that the offense is fully going at full swing, the pitching completely collapses. All departments just cannot flow at the same time for this team, especially when they are built to possibly do that. That's the problem. And again, we can talk about the rotation until we're blue in the face. We can talk about the inconsistencies defensively, or the who should be here and who should not, but they need to perform better than this. It just has to do. It has to be better than that. And we all know that they're capable of a lot more. And that's the problem. We've constantly said this over and over and over again, and I'm sure that we'll have a different conversation next time, and then another different conversation afterwards of what has been going on with this team every single series, where they just seem to turn it on when they feel like it, and then they just turn it off and mail it in the next. not knowing what team is going to show up each and every day is very, very rough to witness. The Mets have held their own a little bit. They've held on. Let's just say that, because at this current moment, typically in the past, we've seen them just completely collapse. Technically, they're still in a playoff spot as of right now. But again, it's not a crutch that you can just use on where you're like, okay, well, just get into the playoffs, you'll be fine. They're going to rear its ugly head. The team's not just going to completely change going into the postseason. You're still going to have the same problems you had in the regular season, just being on a bigger stage. And sometimes there's playoff risers and playoff droppers, but again, there's things and mistakes that this team makes that are not going to be let go, or they're not going to just completely fly back against good teams. They're going to make you pay. No matter if they play well against these good teams or not, or if they play well against these bad teams or not. It's just not good enough. They have not played sufficient baseball for a good enough stretch. Somebody mentioned it in the chat. They scored the most runs like ever in a franchise span, in a month span. In this month, the same month that they're talking about, we are 11-16. 11-16, scoring all this runs with the offense doing good. They've been great. The offense been great.
They've hit in a month.
Most home runs they've hit in the month. Like the most runs or something. I don't know. Most runs in a certain span or whatever. And for some reason, you still have a losing record. 11-16. I don't know. Because I just feel like we're spinning in circles, going off of a checklist of what was good and what was bad every single time. And it's all different. It's all just different because I don't understand how this team makes any sense. They don't make any sense to me. I don't get it. Because usually by the time now we understand what a team's identity is. This team's identity is they're a different team every day. That's literally it. And that's not a good thing. You can't just spin a wheel and say, okay, well, it's going to land on this and we're going to win this way. No, you can't. It's not possible. It isn't. And with the talent on this team, maybe they still have enough to get by. They're still doing enough to get by as of right now. But I think we need to have bigger expectations than that. Way bigger expectations than that. And if you don't, and you just want to be like, oh, well, this is good enough. This is better. I mean, remember 2012? I mean, we were bad by this time. Aim a little higher. Aim a little higher. It's a lot different now. Those teams did not have a $350, $380 million payroll. Expectations are higher, and they need to be higher. Sorry. And, at this point, I don't know whether to applaud anyone for doing their job or, applaud anyone for this or that. I mean, I don't even know how to, I don't even know how to assess this team because I feel like I'm talking about a different team from game to game. Like that's how it is. And I don't know how to gather it all together. Like I barely even remember game one of this series. Like it's so vivid, like it's so small in my memory. And I'm sure I have notes here that'll help me get through it here. But I forget
the ball.
Yeah, the game where they couldn't catch the ball. Game 4 was today. I barely remember game 1 because it feels like the events of everything that went on. It's a different game. It's a different roller coaster every single day to complete 9 innings. And it should not be like that for a team with this high of expectations. And it's supposed to be built to win and be a contender. Some days they look like one. Some days they don't. I just don't understand where we're even going with this team, what direction there is. Because I just don't know which one is going to show up. I really don't. So speaking of what did show up for these last 4 games, let's actually get into the series rundown. I got 4 games to run down here, so obviously I got to take a deep sip of water here,
And it was eventful. You had all these runs on the scoreboard. Mets having 19 one day, Marlins having 11.
It should be fun. Anyways.
This is a lot.
All right, let's get into these 4 games against the Miami Marlins. Game 1. Clay Holmes would start and get plagued by the worst defensive outing we have seen all year by the New York Mets. He'd end his day with 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 unearned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts on 88 pitches. Down 1-0 in the first, the Mets would respond after a leadoff single and a 1-out double by Pete Alonso to make it 2nd to 3rd. Brandon Nimmo would slash a 2-run double down the right field line to give the Mets a 2-1 lead. The Mets would find themselves down 4-2 in the 5th, and Pete Alonso would tie the game with a 2-run homer, his 30th of the year. Ryan Stanek would get the 6th and work around back-to-back walks for a scoreless inning. However, Gregory Soto would come on for the 7th, and the Mets defense would do him 0 favors as well. Following a leadoff single, Pete Alonso would commit a fielding error on a double play ball. Brandon Nimmo would commit an error in left field to give the Marlins the lead. A pass ball would be charged to Hayden Sanger. Jeff McNeil would throw home for the 2nd time in the game with the infield in, and Otto Lopez would get under the tag to make it 6-4 Miami. Kevin Herget would come on for Soto, and on a sacrifice fly would cap off a 3 unearned run inning for Miami. Herget would come back out for the 8th and 9th inning and toss 2 1/3 scoreless with 2 strikeouts. The Mets wouldn't respond offensively for the rest of the game, dropping the series opener by coughing up 5 earned runs on 3 errors in Game 1, 7-4. Game 2, Jonah Tong would make his major league debut. More on that later. He'd toss 5 innings, but he would get an insane amount of run support from the jump. The Mets would destroy Yuri Perez in the 1st inning. Juan Soto would blast his 31st home run of the year, a 2-run shot. Brandon Nimmo would launch a 3-run homer, his 21st of the year, giving the Mets a 5-0 lead after 1. In the 2nd, they would beat up on former Met Tyler Zuber. Pete Alonso would launch a 2-run homer, his 31st of the year. Starling Marte, a 2-run single, 2-run double by Tyrone Taylor, and Francisco Lindor, a 2-run double to give the Mets a franchise record-breaking 12-0 lead after 2 innings. After Tong's exit, Ryan Helsley would get the 6th and work around a leadoff double to pitch a scoreless inning. Brandon Nimmo would drive his 2nd home run of the night and his 22nd of the year to extend the Mets' lead to 13-4. Jose Castillo would pitch the 7th and the 8th, allowing an earned run with 2 strikeouts. In the last of the 8th, the Marlins would put in infielder Javier Sayonia on the mound, and the Mets would tee off on him. Mark Vientos would hit his 14th home run of the year. Tyrone Taylor would hit a 2-run double, and Luis Torrens would launch a 3-run homer, his 4th of the year, and his 2nd of the homestand, extending the Mets' lead to 19-5. The Mets would go on to match the Marlins in the 9th by putting Luis Torrens on the mound, and that did not go well. He'd surrender 4 earned runs, only getting 1 out, forcing Mendoza to go to Ryan Stanek, who would strike out the final 2 batters to end the game, capping off a blowout win for the Mets in Game 2, 19-9. Game 3, David Peterson would make the start, and he was horrible. He'd pitch into the 3rd inning and not get a single out, loading the bases after 2 runs would come across, and he'd exit for Chris Davinsky, who would allow one of Peterson's base runners to score on a 6-4-3 double play, but finish the inning to close the book. 2+ innings pitched, 8 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 walks, 1 strikeout on 65 pitches. The Mets would find themselves down 5-0 in the 1st inning, and Francisco Lindor would respond right away with his 26th home run of the year to get the Mets on the board. Down 5-1 in the 2nd, after a 1-out single by Brett Beatty, and Cedric Mullins would reach on a fielding error to make it 1st and 3rd. Brett Beatty would score on a successful stolen base by Mullins with the ball going into center field. Down 8-2 in the 3rd, the Mets would get closer after a leadoff walk to Juan Soto and a bloop double by Brandon Nimmo. Mark Vientos would launch his 15th home run of the year, a 3-run shot to make it a 3-run ball game. Chris Davinsky would come back out for the 4th and toss a 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts. Juan Soto would get the Mets even closer with his 31st home run of the year, make it a 2-run ball game. Davinsky would pitch a scoreless 5th, working around a walk and a stolen base to complete 3 scoreless innings in relief. Brooks Raley would come on in the 6th and toss a 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts. And after a leadoff walk to Cedric Mullins, Juan Soto would launch his 2nd home run of the day and his 32nd of the year to tie the game at 8. However, Tyler Rogers would pitch the 7th, and after a lead-off and 1-out single to make it first and third, he'd surrender a sacrifice fly for the second out, giving Miami a 9-8 lead. After the Mets would strand a leadoff triple by Jeff McNeil, Gregory Soto would get the 8th and toss a scoreless inning with a strikeout, working around a hit by pitch, and Edwin Diaz would pitch the 9th, with the Mets trying to keep it a 1-run game, and he'd fail to do so, surrendering a leadoff double, a 1-out walk, and leading to a 2-run double by Connor Norby to extend the Marlins' lead to 3. The Mets would get the tying run to the plate in the last of the 9th against Tyler Phillips, and Cedric Mullins would strike out to end the game as the Mets would drop a wild Game 3 slugfest, 11-8. And in Game 4, Kodai Senga would make the start, and he'd struggle once again. He'd pitch into the 5th and get 2 outs after a leadoff double and a throwing error to score a run. Senga would exit for Brandon Waddell, who would end the inning to close the book on Senga. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts on 75 pitches. The Mets offense would be shut down by Sandy Alcantara until the 7th inning, down 5-0 after a leadoff single by Jeff McNeil and a hit by pitch to Mark Vientos that would usher some chirping between him and Sandy. Cedric Mullins would get the Mets on the board with an RBI force out. Brandon Waddell would pitch the rest of the game in long relief to save the bullpen, tossing 4 1/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts on 58 pitches, but the Mets would go silent for the rest of the day to drop the series finale, and 3 out of 4 to Miami, 5-1. The Mets are now 73-64 on the season, currently sitting 6.5 games behind the Phillies for first place in the National League East, and holding a 4-game lead on Cincinnati for the final National League wildcard spot going into tonight. Obviously, 4 games were played, a lot happened. It was bad. It was not pretty. Basically, like we said, the typical what we saw from a typical Marlins series. The Mets just completely unfocused, the Marlins with nothing to play for, and beating the living crap out of them. So, Frank, plenty of takeaways here. I don't think we can get through all of them, but just what the hell? What the hell? I mean, what did I just watch? What did I just watch for 4 straight days?
It's hard to know where to even start because it was like that rough of a watching experience. Like we said, just, I mean, everything surrounding it, the team you're facing, how you've been playing lately, where you are in the season, the expectation, like there's just so many things that go into it that with what happened, it's just such a frustrating experience. And like you said, it's such a roller coaster. I mean, no doubt about it. You're seeing the way Game 1 was a total disaster, and you're like, wow, that was brutal. That was unacceptable. It was first game after that Phillies series, and you're like, okay, well, you know what? Tong makes his MLB debut tomorrow. Maybe that'll make us feel a little better. And it did. I mean, he was exciting. They put up 19 runs. So like, okay, you know what? We're back on track now. Like, we kind of figured it all out. The first game, it was just, it happens, whatever, loss of focus. But now, you know, we made up for it. We're locked back in. Then you have the third game of this series where right away you're down 8-2 with your all-star starting pitcher on the mound. And you're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do here? This is a disaster. Like, we have to go, like you mentioned, Chris Dansky early in the game, a guy who's not your prototypical long reliever. He's been on the team, I think, like I said, 5 separate times this season, basically, with the call-ups, the send-downs, DFAs, re-signing, like minor league options, like so many different things they've done with him this year. And he's able to keep the game close. And then they make this comeback, and you're like, wow, this would be a great game for them to show some fight, show that they're capable of making a comeback. This would be a really great game to get. And they get it to 8-8. And then all of a sudden, some of your new bullpen acquisitions, Tyler Rogers and company, can't get the job done. They don't get any more runs, and they lose that game. And then even today, it's like you're still waiting. And each start that Senga makes, you're hoping that, like, oh, well, he's going to get back to his first, not even first half self, but just be good again. Like, that's all we're asking for. Just be like what we know. Again, you're capable of, what the expectations are. And it still just doesn't happen. And it's right away. Like, it's first inning, bam, they have a run on the board. And it takes forever for the Mets to get anything on the board against this version of Sandy Alcantara, who's had an ERA near 6 going into the game. So it's just like all these things that are going on here that you really are just not sure what to do. I do have some roster construction thoughts as far as some things to consider and think about. I don't know if you want me to get into that or if you wanted to go somewhere else.
Well, I have a top 5 that kind of goes into that, plays a little bit.
All right, so we'll
that,
save it for
obviously,
later. We'll save it for later.
Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, obviously they can get one bat. It looks like we know what the bat is going to be, so that kind of throws it off a little bit. But I have mostly pitchers on this list anyway. So, anyways, I mean, again, let me just start off hot, okay? I just want to start off hot here. Ricardo saying, never wanted Mullins. He is a complete net negative. I'm going to sit here and agree, okay? I've seen enough of Cedric Mullins already. I think I'm done. I know exactly what he can provide. It really is not much. His bat, as fluky as it may have seemed in
Baltimore
with Baltimore, I don't see it. The defense is not really as fantastic, and I already said this the day that they obviously traded for him. He has a noodle arm, and we've already seen it so many times on display. His arm's not good. You might as well just put Tyrone Taylor on there. So I think he was just complete waste. I really do. I think so, and maybe he does have a good series coming up now that I said that. But I am really just at this point, just play Tyrone Taylor. Play Tyrone Taylor at this point. Put Jeff McNeil in center field if you don't want him to be the everyday guy, because he's not great every day.
I was going to get into when I said roster construction. That was one thing.
I just don't even care. I don't even care. I don't want to see Mullins anymore. This guy already, I am pretty sure he has struck out 22 times already as a member of the New York Mets. He hasn't been here. He's been here, 30 days? I mean, come on. Listen, I'm not really someone to harp on strikeouts, because I think they can be very subjective in contact to power. However, I mean, he had another one today. This guy, either this guy is fouling things off, going down 0-2, and just whiffing at every breaking ball possible. Yes, he can steal bases, but so can Tyrone Taylor. He's been nothing. He's done absolutely nothing. It hasn't helped us whatsoever. Hasn't at all. I wasn't expecting him to make the big impact. I wasn't thrilled when they got him, but I was expecting something a little bit better than this, because we've seen throughout his career him be at least a serviceable bat. Terrible. Awful. Yes, he drove in the only run today. Whoop-de-doo, but he still pounded the thing into the ground. I mean, just awful. I think he was just an awful acquisition. He just doesn't look good. I don't like it. Maybe there's something else. Maybe he turns it on at some point, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing so far. And I feel like for him to lock down center field, to try and lock down center field at all, you need an arm. He doesn't have one. He doesn't have one, and I already said that. He has a noodle arm, and that's already been shown many, many times of teams like the Marlins, pesky teams like the Brewers, or all these other pesky teams that can stretch singles into doubles. That doesn't help. That does not help. And he's saying Taylor will get exposed offensively anyways, so then put Jeff McNeil in center field for part-time then, because it seems like he's locking it down better than anybody. Imagine saying that.
He robbed a Harrison Bader home run, so he has my vote.
He didn't rob a Harrison Bader. That was in the park. He had to leap because he timed it incorrectly, but it was a nice catch. Anyways.
No, but I mean, to kind of expand on Mullins a little bit here, though, it's just interesting. Before the Mets acquired him, he had 15 home runs. With the Mets, he has 1, and it was to the opposite field. Could there be a little bit of a differing philosophy going from one organization to another? Probably not, right? That's not a thing. Coaching doesn't matter.
Way.
So,
no way. No.
Can't be that, right? So, again, that's something that I've talked about as well, is you have to think about, okay, well, fit with coaching, fit with team. It's like you could look at a player individually, be like, okay, this is what this player does in a vacuum. But with my coaching staff, does what we preach as our philosophy go with what this player is good at? And that's not the case. It is clear that Cedric Mullins is just kind of lost right now. I mean, a lot of times he's just up there staring. Like, he draws walks, so he has that going for him over Tyrone Taylor. But to your point, I mean, if both are below league average offensively, especially with the position of center field, you probably should take defense. But I mean, they have a few different things going on here, because it's like, okay, well, if you put McNeil in center, the issue with that when we talk about fit with team is what's in your corners. Nimmo, who has not been sparkling defensively, he had the big mishap in the game with the lights and the sunlight, where it's just like a 2-run double right behind him. Dave Pearson now to get out of the inning because of it. And then you have Juan Soto, who, I mean, maybe he'll hustle right field sometimes, occasionally, not really. You have that going on. Then in the infield, because of how well their bats have been, if you move McNeil to center, now Beatty has to come to second base. We've seen what can happen there. It's not that pretty. He can make some nice plays, but it's still not that smooth. And if you do that, that means Vientos goes to third, and we know that could have mixed results as well. But you need Beatty and Vientos in lineup because of their bats, which is where now you have somebody like Ryan Mauricio, who I talked about in one of the recaps. He has zero role. Like, this guy does genuinely nothing for this team right now. Like, they have some opportunities where they could use him, and Cedric Mullins was what I used as an example. You've seen that Cedric Mullins has only had one home run this season. It was to the opposite field. You have a prime position where you really could use a home run, and you have Tyrone Taylor still on your bench as a replacement, and you don't go Mauricio, you just let Mullins go up there and do absolutely nothing. Like, if you're not going to use Mauricio there and it's against a right-handed pitcher, well, then when are you going to use him? You know, that's kind of where I get really frustrated with some of the managing, is that, like, you don't use these guys often. But when there's this golden opportunity, like, there's no doubt about it, it makes 100% sense, he doesn't do it. So it's like, if you're not going to use Mauricio then, just goodbye. Like, get somebody else. So the other thing is that there's some other guys who factor this equation. How about a Jose Siri, who's rehabbing? He plays center field. And once again, we have to remember that when he got hurt, his WRC plus, OPS plus, -8. So he doesn't help things either. He makes things worse offensively. So
Jose Siri, a little harsh. Come on.
Jose Siri ain't going to fix anything either. So that's it. That's not going to help. I mean, Acuna, we know he can't hit. So it's like, this is what they have right now. Like, it's the last month of the season. So you got to go with something. And like you said, it's clear that this Mullins experiment is not working. He's a rental. You didn't give up much again. You don't have to have this extreme loyalty to putting him out there every single day.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to. Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's been the case with all of these trade deadline guys. I mean, like we've said, they're all rentals. And I personally would not bring a single one of them back. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't bring back any of them. So it's just like another one that's like, oh, just another failure of a move. Oh, well, I mean, like, and when you start piling them up between the offseason and the trade deadline, as you go down the list, I mean, you could just go failure, 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 failure. I mean, none of these guys have had big impacts. They all have issues that are going on here. And then for the pitching side, I mean, I'll get to pitching later, but just to top it off, in Manai's first start, it was against Kansas City. He piggybacked Clay Holmes. They did a start together, and they did really good together. To me, I think that needs to be the method, because neither one of those guys can give you volume. It's like, and if you want to burn your bullpen anyway, you might as well just combine them. You have Manai do a few innings, and you have Clay Holmes do a few innings, and together with two starting pitchers that you got in the offseason, you can make one quality start, because by themselves, they both can't do it. You know, it's like these equations you have to make in order to get this crap to work, because everything else has been a disaster. And like I said, you go down the list, you can pull up the transactions, and it's like Manaea, Montas, Holmes, Winker, Siri, and then the deadline guys, Rogers, Helsley, Mullins, Soto. I mean, Gregory Soto, not Juan Soto, but like all these guys have just been massive struggles all over the place. That it's just like, what else can they do? Like, this is who they have. Deadline pass. Billy signed Walker Buehler. Not that I'm advocating for Walker Buehler, but it's just like, you could use pitching and the team in front of you took him, you know? So it's just like these little things like that. And like we've said, we've seen issues pop up throughout the entirety of the season. We don't call them up. We've seen Tong and McLean be way better than our veteran starters, but we leave Sproat in the minors. Like, it's just like these certain things of like the line of thinking where I just don't think is very consistent. And I'm like, if you're doing this, then you should also do that. Like, it just feels like there's no set plan, that there's kind of like, they do a little bit of it, but they don't go all in like on that one kind of philosophy or method. And that's kind of where it gets into the situations where you have things all over the place and you're mixing and matching. Like we talk about different lineup every day, guys playing different positions every day. Like that's kind of how you get into this consistently inconsistent, because there isn't much consistency throughout the organization. So
No.
I think that it kind of just all culminates into what you see on the field.
Yeah, I think there's somewhat of a I think there is somewhat of a concern, I think, with how they're going to kind of utilize this bench in a way, because obviously we know that Francisco Alvarez is trying to come back. I don't know how the hell he has any working fingers anymore, but you have other guys on this bench, Marte, who doesn't play the field anymore. Ronnie, it seems like he's just basically a bench ornament at this point. And then, Tyrone Taylor, it seems like there's so much platoons and then like irreversible platoons of guys where both of these guys can't do things. Like Ronnie can't hit lefties, neither can Brett Beatty, and then there's one guy who does struggle against lefties, and then one who can't hit righties. And I feel like they're just kind of just taking names out of a hat again. And the fact that they're doing that at the end of August going into September, it's not fun. It's not a fun thing to have no stability whatsoever. And you're starting to see this team be just a different team every single day. That's been how it is all year. Right now they're rolling with a 6-man rotation, which is going to be a little bit more flexible considering the fact that they have 28 guys for the rest of the season now. So that probably makes a little bit more sense, which hopefully it helps a little bit in between the days of rest. But it always just seems like we're, fighting so much, whether it is for length or whether it is for quality outings from the starting pitching. And again, David Peterson, what the fuck? What was that? Like, what in the actual, like, that didn't look like an old Peterson where he was struggling so much. It looked like someone who just didn't want to be there. Like he looked like he was just like he wanted to go. Like I felt like every single pitch that he was throwing, he wasn't even paying attention. He wasn't, and that's kind of a rough thing to see at the end of August. That was terrible. And then Kodai Senga. Okay, I mean, we've hinted about this. We hinted about this last episode, me and Andrew, we talked about it, of like a conversation we have to have with Kodai Senga and what the future is going to be with him. But like, I don't know what else to do at this point, but just have him go out there every 5 days and just be like, well, this is what it is. Let's hope he figures it out. Because I feel like there's no other options that can just fill in and help you. Like, what's going to help you? Tyler McGill? Is he going to fill in that? He's going to do the same thing. He's going to labor through 5 innings. He's going to walk a bunch of batter. Like, who's going to help you? Who exactly do we know is going to full on help you and give you that? Who is going to be someone who can fill in right now for while Kodai Senga figures it out? And even while he does figure that out, I'm like, I don't even care at this point. Like I'm at the point where I'm like, well, he figures it out, but it's like it takes so much for this guy to be successful at this point, where it's having we need to give him an extra day of rest. We need to give him this and that, and he still doesn't give us that. Playing pitch to pitch, it seems like he's just nibbling around the strike zone. He doesn't throw any strikes anymore. So it's like, is it really worth it at this point? Is it really worth it? Is there a possibility where we get to a point where we're like, okay, just IL him for the rest of the season and let him figure it out somewhere else?
If they had more depth, I would consider it, because it's like, if he's not going to be his best self, then he's not really worth putting out there every 5 days. Not forgetting these performances. It's not consistent. It's just uncompetitive. It's completely uncompetitive. And he doesn't look like himself, hasn't looked like himself since he came back from the IL. We knew that the amount of base runners that he was allowing when he was doing so well to start off the season, that wasn't going to hold up. But this is a complete fall off a cliff where first pitch, he's already out of it.
First inning, he's already out of it. We're completely out of rhythm. And I feel like I'm sitting here for another shoe to drop where I'm hearing, oh, well, in the offseason, oh, he was dealing with an injury the whole year. That doesn't help the case. That doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it okay to where, can he actually go out there and give us a strong frontline performance that we know he's capable of? He hasn't. And it's not like it's going to get any better with him going deeper into his 30s. And he's signed here for another 2 years. So it's like, at some point, what are they going to do here? It seemed like Carlos Mendoza didn't really hint at him making his next start. It seemed like he was kind of dancing around that. I don't know what that means. But that's just, I'm speechless. I'm really speechless at this point. I used to look forward to watching Kodai Senga every 5 days. Now I can't wait for those starts to be over. That's how grimacing it is to watch. That's how grimacing it is to watch Kodai Senga pitch right now. Pitch to pitch, always falling out behind the count. Can't miss bats anymore. Has no idea where that forkball is going. Fastball's too wild. I don't know how to articulate what's going on with him. I really don't. And he was good to start off the season, I know, but for the accommodations they have to make, that's why it goes to a certain extreme when he's not producing. And that's the thing. Ricardo will say Senga is the only pitcher that everyone will make an excuse for when he pitches bad. I think we all just dance around the fact of the certain adjustment of the fact that, this is a lot different from Japanese ball, obviously, but I feel like at some point, he had to adjust. Like the first year with Senga, I was like, okay, if he needs to adjust to it, that's fine. But we're in year 3 right now. Technically year 2, I guess, since last year was a lost season. It just has not been.
But last year he came back, and it was like a mechanics because of injury thing as to why he struggled in the postseason. So then we said, okay, let him get fully healthy, and then he pitches well. So that's why it's like the only thing that gives me not even hope, but where I could kind of see it is only because we're having the playoffs last year of him not pitching well because of injury, working back from it, and now this year coming back off an injury, you're seeing the same issues. Again, it's but this is what we talk about with managing with players, but it's if let's say we had him sit out another month, whether it was last month or this month, and then he started to do good, would that have been more worth it than to have him out there and just not pitch well and make sure that he is fully back? Should he have done more rehab?
Because it's a ripple effect to the rest of the bullpen.
Yeah, should he have done more rehab starts? There's other ways you could have gone about it, but it's if you're not healthy, you're not gonna be able to help. And if as a team, you have to shut that guy down for a certain period of time to get him going. Kind of we saw Lindor at first with the foot. We were should he maybe sit a little longer before just bringing him back out there to struggle? It kind of feels like you're in a situation like that.
Yeah, I don't really know how they really distribute this because, again, they do have other options, and it seems like they don't have enough spots for a lot of these other options, even though they have 2 opening up tomorrow. But, again, when it comes to the rest of this rotation, Kodai Senga, since he came back from the injured list, he's been a liability. I think we can all say he's been a complete liability. And it has nothing to do with the quality of start or what he's doing out there. It's the quantity of innings. This guy can't get through 5 innings anymore. He can't. Not to mention you have Clay Holmes, who has had trouble doing that as well. Sean Manaea still ramping up to do that as well, who's fallen apart in the middle innings so many times this year. You've seen that happen so many times this season, it just adds to it. But you're coming from a guy, Senga, is supposed to be a professional, supposed to be a frontline piece, where it's if he's not available, there's always something, there's always this, there's always that. I'm not going to sit here and compare it to Jacob deGrom and everything and how he was constantly injured and there was always something going on. But I'm just saying it's I feel like there's no guarantee with him That you can't depend on him for anything. No matter how the talent is or how talented he is or what he can give you and how good he was to start off the year, he still was the guy who had the lowest amount of innings. You can't say, oh, well, Senga get through 6. No, he can't. He can't do that consistently. He can't do what David Peterson's been doing consistently this year. Have we seen Kodai Senga pitch in the 7th inning, like, at all this year? No. He can't go deep into games. And that's another aspect of a frontline starter or an ace or whatever you want to call it. You need to go deep into games too. Volume, quality, quantity, you have to have it all. The inner makings of it. That's what an ace is. And he hasn't been either of those. And that's the frustrating part about it. Because if I hear at the end of the season that, oh, he's been injured and he needs something or whatever in the offseason, that's going to get me pissed off even more. That's not going to be like, oh, it's okay, he has an excuse. No, that's going to make me pissed off even more. Because if you're not available to pitch, if there's always something, is it really worth it? No one's above it. No one's above dealing with injury problems. The Mets already established that 2 years ago when they let Jacob deGrom walk. No one's above it. If you're not available to pitch, you're not available to pitch. And when you are available, you're giving me 4 innings when we're accommodating an extra day of rest for you, then we're in a really tight situation. In addition to Minaya not being able to go deep into the game, Clay Holmes struggling to go deep into the game, Frankie Montas, who isn't even here, but he's done quite a bit of damage to the bullpen when he was here. I mean, how many guys do you want to... Exactly. How many guys do you need to call up and then send down every single day for long relief? How many times do we have to do this? Castillo, Waddell, and Chris Davinsky. How many of these guys need to just go completely cycled through in long relief and then just sent down the next day because they need a fresh arm because you can't get through 5 innings?
And that's been the most frustrating part too, is that you'll see someone like Senga or Holmes have a bad start, then they go to the long reliever who pitches 4 scoreless innings, and you're like,
yes,
should we have started them instead?
Yeah,
like, what
exactly.
are we doing here? Like, it's like, well, maybe we are better off just like letting our guys get fully healthy, put them in, again, a better position to succeed. If that means combining Holmes and Minaya and just doing a bullpen game anyway, since some of our bullpen was pitching better than our starters. But that's the thing that I don't get is that, like, these guys give us these great outings and it's like, well, goodbye. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just the weirdest thing to me. Like, I get it because, like, fresh arms, but still, it's
who's
like
available.
It's like if a pitcher does well for me, why would I get rid of him? You know what I mean? Like that's the part too that. But I guess they've had so many guys like Justin Hageman, Warren, Herger. Like there's like you can mention like anybody basically. It feels like Rico Garcia. Like they had so many different guys step up. That's why you could say, oh, we could send them down because you have like so many other ones you just keep recycling. But at the same time, it's like if I just know I have a better chance of winning, and we're in this part of the season where every win is crucial, I have to think about it.
I have to. I feel like there's just an ongoing joke now of like these long relievers that go up. They know like, oh, I'm gonna get sent down the next day, so it's like I'm just gonna pitch like I have nothing to lose. Okay, all right, let's just go. And that's kind of how it is. I mean, again, these long men, they're great to have. They've been lifesavers for saving the bullpen a lot. But there's only so many times that you can just do this over and over and over again and survive with it. Because these long men, how good they have been, whether it's Hageman or Waddell or Davinsky or Castillo or Rico Garcia, no matter how good they are, they're not going to be perfect every single time. There's been times where they have had to wear it before. It's just not a sustainable way to keep it up. Asking them to go 5 innings shouldn't be that big of a task. It shouldn't. Especially for these guys who, again, are they the best pitchers? No. But again, we've seen Senga go 5 innings before. We've seen him do it before. We've seen David Peterson go 5 innings. We've seen him go 6 innings before. We've seen Clay Holmes go 5 innings. It's happened before. When it completely snowballs like this, that's when you get into, well, we're using 45 pitchers this year, and it's not even September. Just awful. Awful. And that's how you spoil an offense that is exploding right now, by the way. That's how you spoil it. And that's the reason why you finished August 11-18. That's just how they're accommodating this rotation here. And again, we knew that it was not going to be the most strong part of the team. And maybe it does get a little bit of help with, McLean and Tong up here regularly. Who knows? But they're going to have to pull some weight. Kind of like how they were doing it in the first 2 months. It was pretty good. They were the most high contributing department of this team. And now it's just all seems to have just fell into shit. Seems like every single time when we see a veteran on the mound who's done this for quite a while, it's a problem. Your bullpen shouldn't be pitching more innings than your starting rotation. Mathematically, that should not be possible. But somehow it is. How is it? How is it like that? Makes no sense. We're not asking for an ace. We are asking you to keep us in the game, and we are asking you to go through 5 or 6 innings. Pitch into the 6th inning. We're not asking for an iron arm. We're not asking for a Sandy go into the 8th inning. Logan Webb go into the 8th inning. We're not asking that. We have our super pen or our big this or big that. And all these options in the bullpen. We're asking you to go 5 innings. That's it. That's all we're asking. The pitching around the strike zone, kill me. Kill me already. Just stab me with a knife. Seriously, I can't watch this anymore. I can't. The constant 3-ball counts, the full counts with whether it's Clay Holmes or Kodai Senga or when they know that they can attack this, they can attack. We know that there's not just they're having control issues that are having that. They're deliberately pitching around the strike zone. It never seems like every single full count always seems like it's going to end in ball 4. I never think that they're going to put the batter away. This is the type of stuff that also makes me question what's the approach here. Is this a Jeremy Hefner thing? Is this they're not good enough thing? Is this just the fact that they're worn down going into September? Because that's not going to do you any favors. Isn't. I don't know. We'll get into the one bright spot of this series in a second, but let's turn it over to this injury report, which has gotten pretty hefty over these past 48 hours. Frank, I will give it to you, obviously, with some of the updates. Floor is yours.
All righty. So starting it off with Tylor Megill, Mets starting pitcher, will make one more rehab start for AAA Syracuse next week before they make a decision on his activation. With one minor league option remaining, Megill has been on the injured list since mid-June due to a right elbow sprain. Francisco Alvarez, Mets catcher, resumed his rehab assignment for AAA Syracuse yesterday afternoon as the designated hitter. The 23-year-old is expected to be behind the plate tonight or tomorrow after catching a bullpen session with no issue yesterday. Alvarez is currently on the injured list due to a UCL sprain in his right thumb that will eventually require surgery. He is also dealing with a broken left pinky that he suffered after getting hit by a pitch on Wednesday night. He intends to play through both injuries and will turn to the Mets lineup this season. Reed Garrett, Mets reliever, has begun his throwing progression over the past week. Mets manager said today that he believes Garrett will be able to rejoin the Mets after his 15-day injured list time frame is up. The 32-year-old right-hander was placed on the injured list last week due to right elbow inflammation. Jed Williams, Mets infield prospect, was scratched from the Syracuse lineup yesterday due to right wrist soreness. The Mets brass do not believe that the injury is serious. The 21-year-old underwent TFCC, oh dear Lord, debridement surgery in his right wrist back in June of 2024, which sidelined him for an additional 2 months last season. So very eventful. Alvarez, we got right hand hurt, left hand hurt. We're still going to play through it, though. That is he couldn't make it up that it was another hand injury while he's dealing with a different hand injury, but he's still fine through it. Jet with the wrist again, that's kind of weird. I mean, 2 straight years with the wrist injury, that's not quite frequent. So I am like, I don't know about that. And then with Reed, I thought Reed would be done for the year. So I'm also curious about his progression as well. So it's interesting mix of guys, but man, it's definitely crazy.
Yeah, we also have Siri and Winker playing rehab games in Port St. Lucie. It looks like Siri is close to coming back. I don't know if Winker is right behind him, but we'll see what happens. We also did get the full-on official update with Frankie Montas. He will be needing Tommy John surgery, so he is most likely done for 2026. That is such a shame. Anyways, there is obviously a bright spot in this series, and that being the debut of Jonah Tong, who got the call to the majors to make a start in this series. Mets obviously got so much run support for him, so he was able to push a little bit. But Jonah Tong, we all know, former 7th-round pick by the Mets 2 years ago, just completely soared through the minor league system, dominating, being one of the best pitchers in all of minor league baseball. He had 2 starts in AAA before they decided to finally call him up, and he made his debut during this series, which was Game 2, the only game that they ended up winning in this 4-game set. So let's get a little bit of a breakdown of his first Tong and dance. This one's bad. I'm sorry. That's a bad one. Anyways, faced 23 batters, 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 6 strikeouts, 7 whiffs, 7 swings and misses on 97 pitches. He threw a first pitch strike to just 9 of the 23 batters that he faced, but he still was able to have a call strike whiff rate of 24.7%, which is not bad considering the amount of full counts he was getting into. He did surrender 3 unearned runs in the 5th inning after fielding errors by Lindor and Alonso, so it didn't really count against him. Kind of got plagued by it. He was definitely giving up a lot of contact, more than we kind of expected. However, only 17 of the balls that were hit in play were registered hard hits. Lots of soft contact. That's a 29.4% hard hit rate, which again, a hard hit is considered 95 plus miles an hour exit velocity. Now, as for Jonah Tong, overall, we know the stuff is 100% there. His 4-seam fastball, which is usually in the mid-90s, can touch 98 to 99. We did see, I think, 1 touch 98 in that game, but of course, the big obvious right here being the 21 inches of induced vertical break, which is a ridiculous amount of fastball shape with sub 5-degree VAA, which is just insane, especially from that high herky-jerky arm angle, able to command the zone fairly well. We know that he can be a little bit wild at times, but he did not walk anyone. It seemed like he was starting to try and get a little bit of a grasp of his breaking stuff towards those middle innings. But again, he seems to be a little bit more of the 2-pitch. Maybe he eventually uses that curveball, which does have over 60 inches of drop. So we'll see what happens there. And then also a slider, which I believe is a cutter, but they're classifying it as a cutter. It's whatever, but it also does grade out as a plus pitch as well. So we know the stuff is there. 22 years old, obviously making his debut. Nobody expected him to make his debut this year, but the Mets were aggressive and they did it. And as for his debut, he's the second Mets pitcher under 23 years old with 5 innings pitched and 1 earned run in their major league debut. Who was the first to do that? A young 19-year-old kid, a young phenom in 1984 named Doc Gooden. So that's some pretty good company to be in. Obviously, Jonah Tong, one of the top pitching prospects all season, has been phenomenal all year, and he does give us a solid first impression here in his debut, going 5 innings, a 1-run ball, earned run ball. Unfortunately, the defense did not do him much favors. But Frank, the first Tong and dance, like I said. What did you think of? What did you like? What did you dislike from Jonah Tong and his debut on the mound? The 22-year-old kid.
Definitely the big thing was the no walks. I mean, I thought that was huge. I said in the recap, but as we've seen with some of these other pitchers, the veteran guys, like what we saw with Senga today, what we've seen with Peterson, with Holmes, I mean, the whole rotation, the walks have always been a big issue. But for a rookie in his very first start, loud atmosphere at home. I mean, it was packed, so there was a lot of energy in that building. So there's pressure when he's that young too. Like not only is he a rookie, but he's a young rookie. For him to come in there and just be aggressive, throw strikes against a team that puts the ball in play, I thought it was just really, really impressive. And I was very excited, as everyone was, to see him pitch. And seeing how well Nolan McLean did, I was like, okay, well, let's see what Tong could do. Because like Nolan had been so great. It's like, well, can Tong is it even possible he can match that, with how great Nolan's been so far? And he was, up to the task. So he was as advertised when it came to his ability to attack the strike zone. I thought that was really good. He was struggling a little bit to put the hitters away. I mean, they really were raving about his strikeout stuff, that he was like a huge, huge strikeout guy. He ended up with 6, and like you showed, he had some whiffs in there. But I thought with how great a strikeout pitcher he's advertised as, he might have been able to do a little better. That it looked like some of those at bats took a little long. I mean, for him to get through 5 innings, I know the defense was not great, but still took almost 100 pitches to do that. So that's something that is obviously going to have to be worked on as he continues to progress in the majors, as far as being more efficient with his pitch count and being able to work deeper into games, because as we said before, that's the true makings of an ace. So, I mean, that would just be like one, nitpick there, but just overall, you have to be very pleased with what you saw. And, like with Nolan, he's here to stay in this rotation. I mean, that's the thing that's exciting too. It's all about, okay, well, what can you do the next 5 days that, the next time we see you in 5 days? Like that's the next appealing thing. And as we know, in September, I mean, these are all massive games. So they're throwing him right into the fire. We're going to see exactly what he's made of. And, we'll see if he continues to contribute. And it was very interesting. You showed the slider of the 1% usage. He said that's a pitch that he's kind of working on. Like it's not finished yet. That's something that is still work in progress. And we know that nowadays for the right-handed pitcher, if they get a really good slider going, that could be a huge key. So I think, for now, you could probably dominate in AAA with 2 pitches if they're both really, really solid. But for him to really go to that next level, I do think he needs to get another pitcher too to be solid. Because with Nolan, I just feel like Nolan's got so many weapons that are going for him right now. I mean, he's got the fastball, the curveball, the cutter, the sweeper. Like he just and they're all just awesome. The spin rates, they dance throughout the strike zone. So I think for Tong, he still is like he's younger, but I just feel like he still needs like just a little bit more seasoning and just kind of refinement on some other stuff before he really goes to that next level. But just overall, you still have to be very pleased with the first outing.
Yeah, obviously he throws from that very high, ridiculous 64-degree arm angle, which again, a lot of people.
It makes it look like he's injured by the time he's like done. Like the way he follows through, it looks like he's like Winston kind of.
It makes your arm hurt a little bit. It's a high 64-degree arm angle. A lot of people make the comparison to Tim Lincecum. That has been definitely something that has been talked about a lot. Obviously, I don't want to put him to the standard of Tim Lincecum just yet. I just want to see him pave his own way into the major leagues so far. And again, I kind of tampered my expectations. I talked about this a little bit last episode of some things that may not be able to play at the major league level for him, and that being him making quick work of batters the way that he was at the higher levels of the minor leagues, mainly because of, the amount of strikes that he throws, obviously. Maybe there is a little bit of a lack or an inconsistency of chase because he doesn't really use as much of the breaking pitches. You saw 61% fastball, which again is a really good fastball, a ridiculous fastball that he does have. The one thing that I will say is, I do think that you're going to see a little bit more of rough around the edges with Jonah Tong compared to a guy like Nolan McLean, even though we do expect Jonah Tong to possibly be better than Nolan McLean. But this is a 22-year-old kid. Again, this is someone who, again, came out of high school. Nolan McLean came out of college. He was a refined reliever, always spin the ball fairly well. Same when it comes to Jonah Tong, this guy came out of high school. This doesn't usually happen where you see a young guy come up so quick. So again, we know that this has always been a franchise of great pitchers, of guys who they've developed and drafted and brought through. And, sometimes it doesn't last as long. We've seen that happen before. But again, it was a great first start for him. I thought he looked solid. It wasn't obviously as, like this overwhelming, explosive show of Nolan McLean, which is kind of something that I did expect. But hopefully he just continues to get better as it goes on. And I would not be surprised if maybe we have a few rough outings here and then as he continues through like this 6-man rotation or whatever they're doing for the rest of the year past September call-ups. I wouldn't be surprised because, again, there's some things that are going to be rough around the edges. He is 22 years old. That's basically all he is. He's 22 years old. And again, he has been... he still showed what he's able to show, but it also showed exactly what this good stuff does against major league hitters. Could it be that the fact that he was facing a very high contact team in the Miami Marlins? Maybe. Sure. Why not? As for some of the contact that he did induce, not much of it was hard hit. Like I said, he only gave up 5 hard hits in the 17 batted balls that were put in play. So again, he was still giving up soft contact that it was contact. So maybe that's the promising factor of when he were to face the Reds, a more swing and miss team. Maybe he does get better results there. But again, this is a 22-year-old kid. I'm not expecting him to be the savior. If everybody is expecting him to be the savior and writing in Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong as our 1-2 in the rotation right now, which it kind of looks like it right now with all the struggles of the other pitchers, I'm not putting him to that expectation. I'm just letting the kid pitch. That's all I want to see. I want to let the guy do his thing and figure it out at the major league level, just compared to how exquisitely he did it in the upper levels of the minor leagues this year. I mean, he just stormed through it, and it was fantastic to see. Great debut. Could it be nerves? Could it be this? Could it be that? Maybe there's some factors. We don't know. He made one start, and it was an impressive debut for a 22-year-old kid with not as much experience compared to guys like Nolan McLean or even Brandon Sproat, who's someone who has yet to make his major league debut. So if there's anything else that you want to add on Jonah Tong, again, impressive debut. I think that he did a good job. I just tempered the expectations a little bit because I knew that there was going to be some rough around the edges things compared to guys like Nolan McLean, whose stuff just basically plays in any atmosphere, probably could play on the moon. Like that. That's how crazy his stuff is.
Yeah, there was also some weird circumstances in this game. I mean, the Mets gained the 19 runs, like the near half hour in between innings, like when he was out there, like that could also throw you off your game for sure, like rhythm and like you just don't like that's not what you're used to. Like when you're at any pitching any level, you're not used to like half-minute breaks in between each inning. So like that'd be another good test to see how he is like with normal timing as far as like staying in the zone and just having that rhythm. So that's another little aspect of it that could have had an impact. It's only one game, so we'll know for sure. You know what I mean? Like we'll know as time goes on. But I mean, overall, like it's better than a lot of other. I mean, I'll give you this example. It's better than Blade's first start early in the season. I mean, he's no longer with the organization, but like it go that way for every rookie. It's not like well,
Blade wasn't expected to be that high of a
No,
he was never expected like that. Yeah,
but it's like with a rookie, it's not always just this team's never seen them. They don't know what to expect. Like it doesn't. Like some rookies, they have good first starts, and some rookies they don't. So this was
you can see
really
the
good
type of tier though. You definitely can between whether it's McLean or Tong, or you can definitely see the tier between the guys like the Tidwells and the this or that. I mean, let's not forget Christian Scott, ridiculous command. Let's hope that he comes back healthy and he's able to ramp up next year.
Even so Scott wasn't that dominant. I mean, he showed
Scott
some
in his
signs,
debut was really good. Scott,
but
he carved through that Rays lineup, right? He played the Rays or somewhere else. He was good, but again, to the left-handed hitters, lack of depth, he was definitely giving up a lot of home runs, which was, it's whatever. But again, you can't expect the young kid to save the day. Like, again, not everybody can be what Nolan McLean is doing right now throughout his first 3 starts, which was just ridiculously dominant, giving you length, giving you all these strikeouts, inducing ground balls, throwing the kitchen sink at everyone. I mean, not everybody can be that. And I think that we all have said, the fact that when it comes to the pitchers in this rotation, that we all know that sometimes they just don't put it all together. So again, it's exciting. It's great to see this new wave, this new young guy coming up here. Tong, McLean, maybe there's Sproat in the future. Scott next year would be awesome. But again, I'm letting them pitch. I'm not putting any comparisons. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, we have our new Harvey, Syndergaard, DeGrom. No. Please, no. No, thank you. Other than that, a great debut for Jonah Tong. And speaking of other performances, let's get into a good wrap-up for this series, and that being studs and duds. One player that was really good in this series, one that was not. Let's see. Frank, I'll go to you for your stud in this series. I think what direction you can go in. Yeah.
It could be the guy we just talked about, but I'll give it to one of the hitters. I'll give it to Mark Vientos. He continues to really kind of finish off strong the second half. Show a lot more what he's capable of using right field, hitting no doubters to left field. I mean, he just looks so much more like the guy that we saw last season, the guy that really helped get them to the playoffs and be amazing in the playoffs. He's a big piece for this team. They got him right in the middle of the order right now, and he just looks so much more like himself. And like I said in one of the previous episodes, but it's like all of a sudden he could play third base again. Like all of a sudden, yes, he's our third baseman once more because that offense is that great. And it's like even though Beatty kind of looked like he had the job won, Brett Beatty was running away with it, all of a sudden Mark Vientos caught up to him as far as the home runs. And he's he's getting them so rapidly, it feels like he's going to pass him any moment. So it's just good to see like that power aspect also come back to him once again. So I've been very pleased. Some big hits, some big RBI hits. I mean, not just this series, but in this recent stretch that they've really needed. So and that was the thing he did last year too, was he got the big hits. I mean, obviously the walk-off in Cincinnati stands out the most, but in the playoffs, like those were also not to have a good playoffs, but the moments that he came through, like it was the big hits, the game-tying home runs and stuff like that. Like he came through when it mattered most. And a lot of these hits that he gets, they are in big spots.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Vientos has definitely stepped up, and he's been one of the big factors as to why this offense has kind of sparked up over this last month. However, when it comes to the other studs in this series, I think I want to like pair it up with Brandon Waddell and Chris Davinsky for basically saving this entire bullpen from having to go into heat exhaustion. Davinsky has not thrown 3 innings in an appearance in like 5 years, and he ends up doing it. Was great, kept them in the game. They ended up losing. Same goes for Brandon Waddell. They ended up losing, but they kept us in the game once again. It's basically just saving the bullpen, and once again, those guys are going to end up getting sent down because that's just basically what has been going on with this Mets pitching staff recently, probably all season, to be honest, with guys who have been basically just tightening up the bullpen type of workload, which is not great. It's not a good thing. Let's just say that. Duds. There's some to pick from. Frank, go back to you.
Yeah, I got to take Peterson. I mean, that was just unacceptable. I mean, I expect much more out of him. And to give me 2 innings of 8 runs on 8 hits, like, it was just really frustrating to watch. And I know that it was like weird circumstances that like he could have been out of the first inning early if the ball does hit off his glove and like maybe it's a double play and maybe Nimmo doesn't lose the ball in the sun. But it's like when you're an all-star, like you have different expectations. You have to be able to overcome adversity. Baseball is a game that like weird things are going to happen. So you have got to be able to adjust to when those things occur to still be able to turn out a quality start. It's not always going to be perfect. Like there's going to be bad calls by the umpires. Your defenders around you are going to make mistakes. The weather's going to get involved. Like there's always something that could happen. So you've got to find a way to make it work. There could be a blue pit. Like there's going to be things that happen throughout the course of a season that you've got to be able to overcome it and come through with men on base, which for him being such a heavy ground ball pitcher, he's made a killing of that all season long. He leads the National League in induced double play ground balls. I mean, there's 2 guys in the American League, Soriano and Valdez, that have more than him, but it's like this is what he's good at, is getting out of these jams. He was just not able to get out of it. And it's like even when you thought maybe he was going to settle down and like, okay, bad first inning, but still get through it, he just couldn't. He just could never find the groove. He would just find himself in bad hitters counts, walking batters, and just giving up too much contact. So it was not what you want to see. And as we know, just overall a brutal start. It really just took them out of the game, and they still almost made the comeback. I mean, they made the comeback. They made it 8-8, still almost won the game despite how bad that start was, but it just wasn't enough. It was just too much of an ask.
Yeah. I mean, David Peterson, I don't know. Maybe that all-star selection's kind of getting to his head. I don't know. I think he thinks he's better than anyone. I think that's what happened. The same thing that happened with Taijuan Walker, and look where he is now. I mean, it's the same thing, you know? The ego got in the way. No, I'm just kidding. But, he's had some good starts since the All-Star break. He's had some rough ones as well. He had, the one against Cleveland. He had the one against, The one against Atlanta. And then obviously this one against Miami.
He hasn't been great lately.
I think he hasn't. No, he's been definitely laboring a little bit recently. But I do want to say one thing is, I think David Peterson, out of anybody in this rotation, has responded to adversity better than anyone. And he just wasn't able to do that in that start. And it was just painful, just completely painful. And it seemed very unnecessary for a lot of these pitches. We knew that he would have been able to attack and induce this kind of contact. Maybe it's just not a good matchup for him. But again, this is a Marlins team that is not, they don't set the world on fire. So again, that was not a good showing for him. I could put Senga in there, but again, like I'm going to say, Cedric Mullins, I have no confidence with this guy in the plate. I have no confidence when the ball gets to him. I don't think he's that good of a center fielder, to be honest, defensively. And his arm just completely sucks. It's just looking like a complete dud that we are seeing. He went hitless in this series, I think. Pretty sure, right? He went hitless in this series. Hitless, completely hitless in this series. 0 for 11 in the first 3 games, then today 0 for whatever. Completely hitless in this series. And again, I'm not expecting him to be great because he's in the bottom part of the lineup, but I expected him to be at least league average offensively, and it's basically just looking like the typical Mets acquisition that just pays the Mets tax and does absolutely nothing for you. So it's one of those things where it's just, we knew that center field was going to be a point of emphasis at the trade deadline. They were going to look at it. And just seeing this, it's like, okay, were we just better off just having Tyrone Taylor and McNeil just probably just platoon in center field back-to-back on games? Because, like, this has been crap. Like, we're not seeing, like, any improvement whatsoever in center field from Cedric Mullins. And I'm sure that he can be better than this, but initially, like I said, I was never thrilled about it, but again, it's just not, it doesn't seem like it was a good acquisition. I don't know. And maybe it changes, but I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Really, I'm not. Anyways, we will see, how it goes on into September baseball. And I do want to talk about September baseball, as tomorrow is September 1st, as there will be September 1st call-ups. And we will see who they add to the roster as the roster goes from 26 to 28. They call up one position player, one pitcher. That one position player looks like it's going to be Luis Angel Acuna. So that kind of puts a wrench into one of the guys on this list that I have here. So it's time for my top 5 here of September 1st call-ups of guys who could possibly help this team for the rest of for the rest of the year with a little bit more of roster expansion, for a little bit more options where you can have an extra pitcher or an extra position player. Now, I tried to go a little bit and tried to balance it out, but I really just kind of went towards pitching, which just made a lot more sense, obviously, with the Mets not being able to get many innings out of their starting rotation, and it seems like they needed to bulk things up. So either way, who will those call-up candidates be? These also could be guys who are not called up on September 1st, could be guys who get called up for the rest of the year with the additional roster spots you have for the rest of the season. So let's start off this list at number 5 with Dominic Hamel. As the Mets' former third-round pick back in 2021, Hamel is now 26 years old and has struggled mightily at the AAA level over the past 2 seasons, starting Since starting 2024 in AAA, Hamill has posted a 6.51 earned run average across 185.1 innings pitched and 37 starts. Now, why would the Mets call him up? He's been terrible. Well, he has been a little bit better as a long reliever with a 3.89 earned run average out of the bullpen this season. Although there has been a little bit of a velocity dip in 2025. His stuff is still there. He has a plus slider and a plus curveball, each with RPMs over 2,700, and including a fastball with over 16 inches of induced vertical break and extra glove side movement. Is he likely a flop? Sure. But it wouldn't hurt for the Mets to give him a look while they're in desperate need of long relief almost every single night. The Mets actually called him up a month ago, and he never made his debut out of the bullpen. And with him still on the 40-man roster, it only makes sense to at least give him a chance. Number 4, and this kind of crypts it with Luis Angel Acuna basically being the piece, but this could be someone they could consider down the line. Who knows? But number 4, Joey Meneses. Over the offseason, Meneses signed a minor league contract with the Mets, entering his 33-year-old season, not 38. Goddamn. In AAA Syracuse this year, Meneses has slashed 267, 323, 450 with a 98 weighted runs created plus across 450 plate appearances. The reasoning for this is very simple. The Mets have struggled against left-handed pitching all season with a team 699 OPS, while 24th in batting average on balls in play with runners in scoring position. Meneses has posted a 829 OPS with 9 homers against left-handed pitching in AAA this year. He also is a career 124 weighted runs created plus hitter with runners in scoring position. Although the lineup and bench is crowded, Meneses could be utilized late in games if you don't want Beatty or Mauricio or Taylor facing a lefty. Doesn't provide much versatility, but it's always good to have another possible sturdy bat that you can turn into in spurts. And for what it's worth, he has 4 career plate appearances as a pinch hitter, 3 home runs and a walk. Small sample, but it's a fun fact. Anyways, number 3, we actually mentioned him a little bit, Austin Warren. This one is pretty obvious. The Mets need long relief help, and the 29-year-old Warren has been up here and up for the task every time that his number has been called this year. Warren has pitched 9 1/3 innings pitched of long relief at the major league level, and he's surrendered just 1 earned run and striking out 26.5% of the batters he has faced. He's a 5-pitch right-hander with a mid-90s sinker that has 20 inches of glove side run, an excellent sub-4 VAA shape on his 4-seam fastball with a sweeper that can reach over 2,700 RPMs, all from a low 27-degree arm angle. He's a sturdy arm with solid command and great extension for just a 6-foot-tall right-hander, and it could definitely help fill in some innings. Number 2, this is an arm that has not really been talked about enough, but it really should be, that being Dylan Ross. This arm has not been talked about, like I said, but Ross is 24 years old. He's a former 13th round pick by the Mets back in 2022. And following 2 major arm surgeries shortly after he was drafted, Ross blossomed into a potential internal bullpen piece down the line. Across AA Binghamton and AAA Syracuse, Ross has posted a 2.54 earned run average, a 3.31 fielding independent pitching, striking out 36.4% of batters across 46 innings in relief. He can be wild at times, but the stuff definitely plays. A 4-seam fastball that sits 97 to 98 and tops 102 miles an hour, with a plus slider, cutter, and a signature splitter from a high 74-degree arm angle. He's not just a 2-pitch arm like most explosive relievers, as he is really good at expanding the zone. He has a 52.9% whiff rate on his splitter. He has a 67% whiff rate on his slider and a 69.2% on his cutter. And he's a very dynamic arm that could be considered a legitimate back-end option. It only makes sense for them to give him a call considering his Rule 5 eligibility this winter and his overall pitchability, despite being able to air it out whenever he so pleases. The Mets don't only just have starters in the minors, they also have some really good relievers, and Ross is one of those leading examples. And number one, very, very obvious, Brandon Sproat. Speaking of starters, this one, of course, it's a no-brainer. With Tong and McLean in the majors, it only makes sense to call up the third young arm. Since promoted to Syracuse last year, Sproat really struggled to grab his footing. His velocity was down. He was walking over 14% of batters with his strikeouts way down. And then since the end of June, something has just clicked since further adjustment. His fastball and sinker are back up to touching 98 to 99 miles an hour. Over his last 10 starts, Sproat has posted a 2.44 earned run average and striking out 30% of batters across 59 innings pitched. And as the Mets' former second-round pick in 2023, Sproat has always been an explosive arm, but with inconsistent shape on his fastball, forcing him to revamp his repertoire into a more hard sinker-oriented pitcher that can induce a ton of ground balls. He's now a 6-pitch right-hander with a low 90s changeup, a hard-running sinker with over 17 inches of run, and a deep gyro-cutting slider, plus sweeper that beats up left-handed hitters, and a slow curveball with RPMs in the 2,500 range. Since the adjustment, the walks are down, he's throwing more strikes, and he is getting deeper into games. There's still some question marks regarding Sproat compared to the caliber of McLean or Tong, and it's likely that he might be a back-end starter at the major league level going forward, but not everyone can be that top-notch. But he still does deserve a look. Can he make an impact? I guess we'll have to find out. So there's the top 5 of call-up candidates. Obviously, Joey Meneses is kind of obsolete at this current moment, with Acuna being the position player that it looks like they're going to be calling up. So, Frank, this top 5 of pieces, obviously, Syracuse, some talent there, some not. I don't know, but we'll see how they expand this roster. What do you think of this top 5?
Yeah, I mean, it makes no sense to me. Like, pitching needs to be the priority because, I mean, like we said, you have these guys who give these good outings and then immediately they get sent back down. And with seeing how much of an issue it's been to get the length from the starting pitchers and see how many times they just get blown up, basically, where they can't get through more than 5 innings, it happens so frequently that you have to just kind of go into your roster construction expecting to need multiple long men. So, maybe if there was someone who profiled as just a strictly like 1-inning reliever, I wouldn't call them up. Like, no, I would prioritize another long man because you just know you're going to need them. Like, if you're going to have Clay Holmes in your rotation and Manaea and Senga, like, for sure you're going to need another long man. So you might as well have one of these guys, or whether that is a Dominic Hamill, Brandon Sproat just makes a ton of sense in general, and maybe move like Clay Holmes to the bullpen or something like that. Like, you getting these guys that provide length is very important. I mean, Austin Warren's done a great job in that long relief role too. So, I just would like if these guys, they have these really good outings in the bullpen and they get to stay up and just see if you could build on it instead of like the DFA and the re-signing and just like all this other stuff that goes into it. I mean, that's something that I'm really intrigued by. The Joey Meneses thing, like, I get it, but the actual fit, I don't see it. I just think like Alonso, he's a workhorse. Like, he's going to be at first base just about every single day. You might have like 1 or 2 games he DHs, but as we've seen, Starling Marte gets a lot of the pinch hit reps, and if they don't pinch hit with Mauricio, I don't see them pinch hitting with Meneses. And since he only really plays first base, I just don't think he provides enough roster versatility as far as positional versatility or defensive purposes that he really fits well on the position player front. I think that's why Luis Angel Acuna makes more sense as the guy that is going to be called up for the position players, the speed, the versatility. So, I mean, he has the edge there. Dylan Ross is an intriguing one because, like you said, he's someone who has not been talked about. So that would be something interesting for them to consider and use someone just totally different that a lot of people weren't expecting. I mean, for Hamill, like, they wanted to use him, but the situation just didn't come up. So all these guys, like, besides Meneses, they have a case. I mean, for me, Sproat just makes the most sense. Like, he just it makes too much sense. He would be such a perfect fit for this team. especially with kind of the rotation being in flux a little bit, just like not knowing like what is going to happen with Senga. Like, does he ever figure it out in this last month of the season? Is Clay Holmes ever going to go deep into games consistently? Like, it just feels like you've had kind of months of a sample size, so it's hard to just see it automatically happening, that you have to go into expecting it not to happen and that things are going to remain the same as they are. So for me, like, Sproat should be a no-brainer, especially because he has more experience than Nolan McLean. He has more experience than Jonah Tong. And you know what? It's not so much like, oh, well, these other rookies were great, he'll be great too. But I just think that when you look at what the Mets have currently been putting on the field right now, you can't tell me that Sproat is not a better option than a lot of guys that they have been putting out there on a consistent basis.
Yeah, obviously, Brandon Sproat seems to be the next guy up, obviously, especially with things in the rotation going on. We know that Tyler McGill is making his way back, and he has a minor league option as well, so they could option him down to AAA Syracuse. Meneses, the only thought as to why is because, again, it's the left-handed pitching type of thing. If they want to just pinch hit and they have multiple guys in the lineup who can't hit left-handed pitching, they want to pitch hit late, that's whatever. It's an extra bat. The main reason as to why I see that as the only value you can provide with a position player, even though they're going to bring in Luis Angel Acuna, who I don't even think does that many things well. But Joey Meneses, I just find it as he won't clog the infield, because it seems like we have about 8 infielders on this team at this point. The outfield, yes, you have guys who are underperforming. Taylor shouldn't be an everyday player. Mullins hasn't been good. We already talked about that. And then you have the 2 corners locked up with Nimmo and Soto, so they're not going to be going anywhere. So you obviously have that, but you also have the factor of, Jose Siri. What happens when he comes back? Or is there Jesse Winker? Hopefully there's no outfield time for him. So I feel like for the time being, before those guys even get back, I think Joey Meneses would be a good decision, just to expand the bench just a little bit in some of these situations, even though the offense does not seem to need that much help recently. They've actually done fairly well over this past month. But it seems like they're going with Luis Angel Acuna anyway, so it's not like it matters, and that argument does matter. But again, Dylan Ross, that's someone who you're like, okay, maybe you could go to in some ways instead of somebody like Ryan Stanek, who's been god-awful all year. Austin Warren, like I said, backing up the starters. Again, this is a list of pieces in AAA that I feel like would be the best fits, or maybe there's somebody that gets called up, in the middle of September on this list instead of on September 1st, because again, the rosters do expand. So you just never know. But we'll see who that pitcher ends up being for the expanding on the rosters. And most likely will be out maybe before the audio comes out for this episode. So you never know. But Luis Angel Acuna, it looks like he is going to end up being the position player that they end up calling up. It makes sense as to, that they would end up doing that, unless it's a corresponding move to send Ronnie Mauricio down, which I would agree that they should do, and he should just get AAA ABs because he's not playing here. He basically is a bench ornament at this current moment. But we'll see what they do, because they got less than 12 hours to make that decision. So we'll see. I don't know. But other than that, let's go into moving forward into September baseball, and that being, of course, this series with the Detroit Tigers, one of the best teams in baseball this year. Obviously, they turned it around last year from that huge trade deadline that they ended up selling, and then they ended up going into the playoffs because the Twins just completely collapsed into themselves. But they ended up going to the playoffs. They made a run, actually, and they were able to follow it up with yet another season where they are at 80 wins as of right now. They're 80 and 58 on the season, leading the Central right now. And we know, again, there's not many teams that are in that American League right now that are as competitive or above that. This is one of those teams that they will end up facing this week. So again, let's get into these probables for this series. Let me just check if these have been completely confirmed, because they were not confirmed yesterday. Yes, they have been confirmed. Okay, cool. Let's get into these probables for this series. Sean Manaea will start the series opener. He will face the 41-year-old right-hander Charlie Morton. First pitch will be tomorrow afternoon at 1:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. Weird to see a series opener be at 1:10, but you know what? We're going to make it work. Game 2, Nolan McLean will make his 4th MLB start following a 8-inning masterclass against the Phillies. He'll face a finally healthy Casey Mize. First pitch is Tuesday night at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY, and Game 3 will go to Clay Holmes in the series finale. He will face Pete Alonso's #1 fan, Chris Paddock. First pitch is Wednesday afternoon at 1:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. So there are your pitching matchups. It looks like they are avoiding Tyreek Skubal.
Yeah, he just pitched today.
He just pitched today, so
yeah.
advantage Mets, right? It should be. I know that the Mets like to beat up on the good pitchers, and then, you know, some meatball goes on the mound and throws 8 scoreless against them. But Tyreek Skubal is really good, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. So we'll see what happens there. However, again, this is a good Tigers team. Frank, what are your thoughts going into this series?
Yeah, I mean, the pitching matchups are absolutely fascinating. I mean, you have Manaea, who we just talked about, like, you know, still ramping up or whatever is going on there. Like, he really needs to kick it into gear. I mean, I talked about with Vientos, him looking more like his postseason form. We need to get Manaea to look like his postseason self. Like, that is why they picked him as the guy to re-sign out of that starting rotation. And it just has not been the case yet. So, I mean, now is a great time to really kick it into gear and show, you know, why we want to keep you, what you are capable of, and keep it throughout the course of the full start, because we've seen flashes. Like, we'll see some nice innings out of him, but can you put together, I mean, at minimum 5, but ideally more? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And as people are mentioning in the chat, Charlie Moore and the success he's had against the Mets over his career. I mean, listen, the guy is really getting up there in age. I mean,
did they struggle against him in Baltimore or something?
They've struggled against him a lot of different times. Yeah. So it's just like he's getting pretty close to me in age. Like, we've got to figure him out eventually, please. Like, come on.
Would be nice, wouldn't it?
You really got to get it going. The McLean-Casey Mize matchup is awesome. Like, those are 2 really exciting young pitchers. So that's going to be a fun matchup. I've just seen those guys kind of go back and forth is going to be nice to see. And then similar to Manaea, but like with Holmes, it's like, dude, or like another guy, like, can we get some consistency out of you? Because Clay Holmes are rather going to get like 5 innings, 2 runs, or like 4 runnings, 4 runs, you know, like that's just kind of how it goes with Clay Holmes. Can we finally get volume out of you? And then Chris Paddock, as you mentioned, like, he has a history against the Mets. So there's just like a little storyline going on there. And Alonso getting to face him once again. Chris Paddock, who was almost a Met, but because of Dom Smith was not. Like, it's just like, you know, a lot of different little layers to that story. But for the Tigers, I mean, what you're really watching is the lineup. I mean, they do a lot of work in their outfield. I mean, you got guys like Riley Green that are just having an awesome season. They have so many guys who really just young pieces. Spencer Torkelson and have a nice bounce back year. Gleyber Torres, you know, the former Yankee, putting it all together. Zach McKinstry been really good for them. I mean, they just have guys up and down the lineup. Kerry Carpenter. I mean, so many guys who have really put together very solid seasons, and it's why they have one of the best records in baseball, one of the best records in the American League, because they've had so many different guys contributing for them to have this quality of a season. They have another former Met in their bullpen, Rafael Montero. He closed out the game today. So he's on this team. Kyle Finnegan, awesome reliever from the Nationals. He's on this team now. They're going to miss Jack Flaherty, who the Mets faced in the playoffs with the Dodgers last year. So they have a lot of interesting like connections in this series.
Yeah. Speaking of that bullpen, there is someone who I don't think anybody has been talking about at all, but he's had a really good season, and I think he's their closer now. Will Vest has had a remarkable season as out of their bullpen. I think I guess he's their closer now. Mm-hmm. He originally I think was a starter like years ago, but he just converted into a reliever. He's having a great season as well. We know that Tigers team, you know, again, is one of the best in all of baseball. Javi Baez, our old friend, since that, all-star bid that he had, has kind of come back to earth recently. He's below league average now. but at
So
least
is
they're getting something from
so
him.
is PCA. Like that was like a huge
Yeah,
storyline for the media in the first half. It was like,
yeah.
oh, Baez, and I said it too, like, oh, Baez and PCA, both two center fielders playing really well. The Mets have no center fielder. Both of them, especially PCA, have been so bad lately that
Yeah.
it is just
Who
kind of
would have
interesting
thought?
seeing how baseball season
Who would have
goes.
thought a guy who whiffs and chases that much in PCA would just completely get figured out by it? But who knows? Anyways, low Mets, I guess. Riley Green, like we said,
Yeah.
having a great season, strikeout prone, but definitely gonna hit the crap out of the ball. Another guy having a really great season for them. What's his name? Kerry Carpenter, another guy
Yep.
doing really well. They have a really good offense. They have had a really good offense this year. And, Spencer Torkelson has started to turn it on as well. Someone that the Mets were actually linked to in the offseason of a potential guy to maybe replace Alonso at first base. That has struggled a lot. Former first overall pick. They also have, what is his name? Brant Herder as well in that bullpen. He's had a
Yeah.
really good season along with Will Vest as well. They've had some other guys do really well that they have called up too, and then I think they also are using a 6-man rotation along with us. So we
Yep.
will see what happens with that. But some players to watch in this series on the Mets side. Frank, what are your thoughts? Who are you
Yeah. I mean,
putting the spotlight on?
the Tigers also have had Tomas Nido as well. So I mean, they just had like a whole bunch of Manuel Margot. I mean, they just had a lot of interesting guys that have just like a lot of history
Met
with the Mets.
staples. Okay,
Yeah, Met
cool.
staples exactly. But like you mentioned, there's a lot of guys to watch. I just think from a team standpoint, like, will the
Oh,
defense?
one more.
Yeah.
Jeff
Who
Hartlieb.
else?
They had Jeff Hartlieb
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
There's another.
Mets
That's another
legend.
Met legend. Yes,
Big
for
boy.
sure.
Big boy
I'm
Jeff
with
Hartlieb.
with the Mets.
All
I
right.
think it's more so an overall team thing. I'm watching. Like we said, when it comes to
Yeah.
playing up to competition, playing down to competition, focus, hustle. So like defensively, are we gonna not make these
Yeah.
routine plays look terrible? Like, can we actually figure that out? And then it comes down to like, can these guys maintain their hot streak? So guys like Soto, Nimmo, you have someone like Vientos, Lindor. Like, how long are their hot streaks gonna last? I think is another big thing. Like, can they carry it throughout the entirety of the season? Or, do law of averages, they go back into the slumps. And then from the roster construction standpoint, I mean, someone mentioned, but like Detroit, Comerica Park, like pretty big field. So
Yeah.
probably not this situation where you're going to put McNeil in center full time quite yet. But it's just going to be interesting, like just how they continue to manage that whole center field thing, like between Mullins and between Tyrone Taylor, who's going to be the guy getting the majority of the starts. Does Ronnie just totally rot on the bench because of Beatty and Vientos playing well? Like we've said, they have almost a good problem in a certain way to have. It's like, well, how do you get Marte and McNeil and the young guys all in the lineup at the same time while having quality center field defense? Like, that's one of the other things too that they're still trying to figure out. So I feel like it's still going to be another one of these series where different lineup every day, guys playing different positions. So they're still not finding that full consistency yet.
Yeah. Francisco Lindor, I'm looking to you because I know you have quite a career against Detroit from when you were in Cleveland. Obviously, it's been a while since he's been in Cleveland, but he's back there. Pretty sure he had his first major league hit there. That's a piece of trivia. No, and then also, like you said, the center field situation. It's a lot of ground to cover in center field in Detroit. So I'm hoping we see Tyrone Taylor out there in center field. And not to mention his arm as well can also make up for it.
And Tyrone has also been
plays.
playing better lately too. I mean, it looked like he finally got it going.
Yeah.
He finally got on a hot stretch, and then he just kind of goes away. So that was another frustrating part of the whole equation too. Was he finally got it going, and he's
Seemed
not
like
really
he was
getting
heating
that full
up.
playing
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I mean, he's not completely useless offensively, but he's had his bad a lot of bad, but it seemed like he was heating up, and then it seems like they just wanted to go to Mullins, which I don't understand because it doesn't seem like has much going for him as of right now as a Met. So we'll see what happens with that. Mark Vientos, again, let's see if we can get a little bit continuing the hot stretch. We know that again, this is not really necessarily a hitter's ballpark, so we'll see what happens there. Maybe the home run issue that we are seeing from guys like Ryan Helsley Guys like Ryan Stanek, guys that have been giving up decent amount of hard contact here. Maybe that does get a little bit tempered in a pitcher's ballpark such as Detroit, but you can only hope. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Plenty of decisions to be made. Like we said, September call-ups. We have some guys coming back from injury. Like we said, Siri, Winker, Francisco Alvarez somehow is still alive and still has all of his hands. And then Reed Garrett, like we just said, there was an update on him. So we'll see what happens. They still have some things to move around, and we're getting very, very close. This is the final stretch into the postseason, which by decent chance, I'd say the Mets will make, but how will they get into the postseason? Will they faceplant like 2022, or will they get hot like 2024? We'll see what happens. Lineup is looking good. The offense has been great. Pitching's got to step it up. Someone's going to have to step up other than the kids who are inexperienced, and we'll see what they do. We'll see what decisions they make for these next few weeks to end off the season. But other than that, Frank, if there's anything else that you want to add, going into September baseball, August is done. This is a new team tomorrow, right? Brand new team for September.
I mean, listen, you want to, like I've said, if there's ever a time to be good, it is September. I mean, you don't want to be a team, like you mentioned, like 2022. You'd rather have a team that, like last year, won the wild card but was good in September compared to a team that won over 100 games and was bad in September. So it's like you could make up for a lot of the garbage that we've seen all season long and this performance in this past series by putting together a really strong September. So it starts tomorrow. You're facing a really good team. There's no excuse to be lackadaisical, lack of focus. Like, who knows? Maybe this is, if you actually did make the World Series, this could be one of the teams you face. Maybe. So it's like, get it together. Show what you are capable of.
And the next three teams that they play are all in playoff contention, so they can say, hey, let's play up to them. All right? Let's play good, because apparently we only play well against good teams, which I guess is a good trait to have. But series like this, when you're losing 3 out of 4 to the Marlins, still a no-go. Sorry, still a no-go. Not great, but hopefully they can be better. Thumbs up. Anyways, we're going to end it off here. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel and turn on those post notifications to not miss when we go live. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok. Follow all of us individually. TikTok, of course, Frank's post games after every regular season game. And finally, as we go off to Detroit, start September baseball. Let's go Mets. And we'll see you guys next time.